Alright, so what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper, and welcome everybody back to a brand new video. This is going to be the entire ultimate solo Easter egg guide for Voyage of Despair. Now, this is going to work like all of my other guides. The steps in the Easter egg are going to be exactly the same if you're running this co-op. However, if you're clicking on this video, then you're most likely wanting a guide that's made for solo players. So if that's your case, then you're in the right place. Now, before we get started, this guide took a long time to make because most of the steps in this Easter egg are very in-depth, and it takes a little bit of time to really explain and to get across what exactly you need to do and what's going on. So I put a lot of time into making this guide as clear as possible. So if this ends up helping you at all or you enjoy the video, please make sure to leave a like rating. It does help me out so much. And also make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for more solo guides just like this one, or if you want to see anything in particular on some of the maps, you can let me know inside the comment section. And also, I'll mention this just in case you don't want to end up doing this one by yourself, because it is a daunting task. If you want teammates, then feel free to join my Discord server, which will be linked down below in the description, and you can go there to find teammates if you want to complete this map, or really anything to play in Black Ops 4. It doesn't have to be Voyage, it could really be anything at all. But go join my Discord server, which will be linked down below if you want some teammates for this kind of thing. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, with that all out of the way, we're going to explain the entire Easter egg of Voyage of Despair, get all the steps done to get you to that boss fight. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So before we jump into the game, let's talk about your class setup really quickly, as it is pretty important. Now, I would try to replicate exactly what you see on screen as closely as possible. The thing you absolutely need, the key to this, is having the Hammer of Valhalla. This is absolutely 100% necessary, but as far as like your grenades or starting weapons, that doesn't really matter. Perk setup, I'm going to recommend this. However, if you want to substitute Tortoise with Bandolier, that's also not a bad move to have more ammo for the weapons that you use in the boss fight. But when it comes to elixirs, I would recommend at least have a power keg and maybe a fire sail, and then equipment and anywhere but here. These are both fantastic choices. You're going to end up hitting the box a lot for some particular weapons and equipment that you need, so fire sales will help, or anything to drop you points before you go into the boss fight is really going to help you out as well. But I recommend probably this setup, and you can tweak it to your own personal preference as well, but this for the most part. And once you got that set up, now you're ready to jump into the game. And also, at this point, I'm pretty sure it goes without saying, but this is assuming that you already have a basic understanding of the map, such as like shield parts and how to get the upgrade kit for the Kraken, which are both very easy buildables. But if you don't know how to do those, then there are links in the description that will be some external sources to help guide you through that. But get yourself a basic understanding of the map, and then you can go ahead and get started. Now, jumping into your game, the only thing you can really do is gather points in the starting room until round 5 or 6, at least till you have enough to open Pack-a-Punch, because that is step 1. You cannot do anything else in this Easter egg without first opening Pack-a-Punch and activating all the symbols, so make sure you go ahead and get that out of the way as quickly as possible. Once pack is open though, that's basically step 1, so now you can move on with the first real step, or step 2. Now hold on to this, because this is going to be probably the hardest or one of the trickiest steps in the Easter egg, so pay attention as we go along here, but we'll get through it together. So basically, you're going to be looking for a set of clocks around the map. You need 4 in total, but there are 6 spawns. Now here's the first one that is downstairs under the poop deck, and you can see by the clock, you can see the minute and the hours hand. You just need to pay attention to that. The time itself doesn't necessarily matter, as well as you want to pay attention to this corresponding symbol here under the stairs. An important note to keep in mind, that if one of your clocks has a time that's like 12:40, where the hour hands on the 12 and then the minute hands on the 8, you don't need to pay attention to these ones. These ones are inactive, so disregard them. That last one we just showed, by the way, was in the Zeus perk room. This next one is over here in the kitchen or the galley, and it's up against the wall. And again, this one is the same in my game. It's basically the 11:40, the one we don't need to pay attention to, but each clock is going to have a corresponding symbol. So here's another clock on the grand staircase revealing another time, and then the corresponding symbol is just behind it over on the wall, and you can see that this symbol is a little bit different. It's like an upside down triangle with a line going through the bottom of it, and that is the corresponding one to the one on the grand staircase. Another clock is in here on the bridge room, just behind where the levers are, that we're going to end up using a little bit later, but go ahead and get that time as well, or get the hands on the minute and hour clock. And then the symbol is right here under the desk. And the final clock you can have is inside of the mail room, and this one's a little bit tricky to spot because it's a really small clock, but it's up against the wall as if you're about to go into the cargo room. And then the corresponding symbol with that is under this staircase here, this metal behind these bags. Now, assuming you've written down the times and the symbols for the corresponding clocks, this is where it's going to get a little bit confusing, so bear with me here. I'm going to try to explain it as clearly as I possibly can, so pay attention, and you should get through this no problem. Now, inside of the bridge room, you'll notice that the levers have a corresponding symbol on it from the ones that we saw with the clock. So it will have one of those up or down triangles, or the ones with the dashes through them. Now, thankfully, these stay static every single game, and you can check which symbol it has by looking on the face of it, and it will tell tell you which symbol it corresponds to. Now, let's say that you got the lever all the way to the far right, and it's the up triangle. Now, you want to take that symbol and the clock that you got, and then enter in the minutes hand onto that lever. Now, you'll probably be confused because there's no numbers on this lever. Well, if you take a look at this, it will show you exactly how this is done. You need to take the clock's minute hand reading along with the corresponding triangle symbol and find that lever. And what you're going to do is move that to match up the minute hand section that was on that clock onto one of these levers, whichever one you're doing at the time. So essentially, you're holding X or square to move that lever on the handle, how many times you need it to match up with the minute hands on the corresponding clock that had the correct symbol with it. I know it's very, very confusing and a lot to take in, but if you pay attention to the graphs and sort of jump into this and see these levers for yourself, you'll start to get a good understanding of it. Now, if you've successfully done the ones inside of the bridge room, the 4 levers in there, that's really good. That's probably the most brute force stuff out of the way, but you're not done yet. Don't disregard the symbols or the times you still have, because we still have to use the hour hand combinations in the other ones corresponding on the other side of the boat. When you make your way to the back of the boat where the Sentinel artifact was, you'll go up and you'll see another set of 2 levers. Now, these are the same concept as the ones before. However, you're entering the hour value for those particular levers. Now, you'll notice that these 2 do not have the corresponding triangles on them. However, you can keep in mind that they stay the same every game. So the red one, the one on the right, is the down triangle with the dash through it, and the one on the left is the up triangle with the dash through it. Now, to finally finish this off here, we're going to go down into the engine room and look at the last corresponding levers here. Now, the one on the left is going to correspond to the up triangle, and then the 2 on the right are going to correspond to the down triangle. And you also notice that only 2 of these are currently working, and that's all you'll need to know. Assuming you've done it right up to this point, you should be entering the last hour hand values that you were given from your clocks and your symbols into these final 2 down here in the engine room. Now, if for any reason this step is not working by the time you're done, you're going to have to go and backtrack. So I recommend when you go and try this for yourself, you start paying attention and double checking your work every single step you make. So you double check the clocks, double check the symbols, write them down, make sure you have them on you. And it's one of those things where if you mess up here, you're gonna have to backtrack all the way to see where you messed up. Even one little minuscule error can destroy this whole step. So make sure that you're doing this correctly from the beginning so that you have to backtrack less if something does go wrong. Now, if you're at any reason for struggling whatsoever, go back and refer to the graphs, listen to it again. And if you're still struggling, I'm gonna have another video just completely explaining this step down below in the description, so you can refer to that if you need it and then come back to this guide. But if you're doing this correctly, after you enter your last hour hand value down in the engine room, you should hear a sort of activation noise, kind of like something shifted in the boat. Assuming you've done that correctly, you can go ahead and move on to the next step. So what we're gonna do from here is go around the map and look for a couple of different outlet sockets that are on the walls. Now, the easiest way to do this, I'm gonna show you all of the locations in this video, is follow my exact route that I'm doing and just look to see if the outlet that I show in the video is sparking in your game. Now, the sparks you're going to be looking for is an elemental spark. Now, for instance, in this one, you can see that sort of an ice or water effect is coming out of this one in the grand staircase. And all of these elements represent a different enemy type in the game. So another example, in the dining hall, there's an outlet right here. And if you just were able to catch that one, it was sparking a kind of fire effect or a magma effect. And that, again, that represents another special enemy type. The next outlet that you can find will be in the first class lounge in the Zeus perk room, and this one is giving out the venom effect. Now, keep in mind that the venom effect and also the electricity are kind of similar looking as far as color, so you can easily get them confused. This next outlet is actually outside of this barrier over in the aft deck, so keep an eye on this one. It's a little bit of a sneaky one, and if you don't find it there can be another location in the third class berths, and this one is up against the white wall. Again, very easy to see as well, but if they're not sparking for a little while, then you can go ahead and assume that they're inactive. Now, the last one you can have is inside of these staterooms, and this, for me, was the electricity spark. Now, what you're going to essentially do is kill that zombie type in front of what outlet is corresponding to it. And to be honest, the hitbox, or I guess the generosity of how it gets, how far away the enemies are, is pretty large. So they don't have to be right up on the outlet. Just kill them in the general vicinity of where the outlet is. Now, special enemy types can start spawning in on round 9. So that's where you're going to have the bulk of them coming in. And I believe, but don't quote me, I think you can only set one of these outlets per round. So what I mean is you kill an enemy type in front of that outlet to make the ritual circle appear. The soul will go into it, and as you can see, it just kind of burns this circle onto the floor, which is a teleporter that would put you in a lockdown challenge mode. A few very important things to note. You can set these ritual circles in any order you want to with the element types. It really doesn't matter. Just make sure all 4 are spawned in at some point. But you do have to use the challenges or enter them in a very specific order. And that is going to be your Venom ritual challenge, then your Water challenge, Electric, and then finally ending off with Fire. And before you begin your challenges, I'm also going to recommend that you invest a lot of your money into the mystery box, trying to get both the Kraken and also the Homunculus. So it's going to be pretty useful. I actually didn't end up using the Homunculus equipment in this gameplay, so you can do without it, but it is very recommended, especially in the later steps. But the Kraken is an absolute must-have for the second challenge and beyond. The first challenge you can actually do with probably your regular guns if you're pack-a-punch and everything. And also if you end up getting a Hellion Salvo, that is an amazing gun for this. So if you pull that out of the box, make sure that you do keep it. But as soon as you feel like you are personally ready for these challenges, we're going to go ahead and start them. I'm going to walk you through each of them and show you how they're done. So your first challenge is of course going to be the Venom one, and for me this is in the first class lounge. I'm going to hold square on that ritual to activate. It's going to teleport me to the back of the boat, where it's going to be blocked off by 2 of those red circular ritual pads, signaling that you cannot leave the area. So you're going to be stuck in this area until you kill all of the zombies. You don't really need to worry about anything else, and to be honest, for this challenge these spawns are pretty light. I went in this gameplay with just a Hellion upgraded and this Vihander just completely unpack-a-punch. But if you end up getting the Kraken at this point, or you have Homunculus or anything like that, what you've been killing regular zombies with this whole time, you should be okay in this one. However, keep in mind that you will end up getting a total of 2 Blightfathers, I believe, on solo during this challenge. It's a lot more intense when you're playing with other players, but doing this by yourself, as you can see, it's pretty much fine if you're using your hammer and taking advantage of all of the equipment that's at your resource. Each sequence is going to take you around 3 or 4 minutes if you're doing it correctly, and by the end you should get a flash on your screen signaling that you beat it, and then the artifact is going to be able for you to pick up. Also, you will be awarded with the max ammo only in this one, so keep that in mind. But you'll go to the back where you started and pick up the artifact, and then you're good to go with your next challenge. This second one is going to be the toughest, and I'm going to say I don't recommend you do this until you have an upgraded Kraken, just a single one pack-a-punch. Keep that in mind, but once you feel like you're ready to go into the second challenge, you're going to start out in the cargo hold completely underwater. This is the one that I think is, out of all 4, the most challenging and difficult, namely because you're in the water and your movement is very, very limited, as well as the spawns that it gives you. You have 3 lanes of traffic to cover, and you don't have any room to really back up into or maneuver with. So your only resource, or your only hope for this one, is to put out as much DPS as you possibly can to each side. Make sure that you are taking advantage of your specialist weapon as soon as you have it, and that's where the power keg elixir is going to come into play. If it's not fully recharged by the time you're in this, or if you burn through it and you need another, you can treat it sort of like a dying wish, where it's a last-ditch effort in case you're about to die. So just keep that in mind. But giving all the tools that you will have Blightfathers in this one as another thing to keep in mind. But giving the amount of firepower that you should have with this Kraken, along with your Hellion Salvo plus a special weapon, you should be a-okay. And again, as soon as this one passes, don't forget to grab that Sentinel artifact as well. You can move on to your next one. By the way, you can do these all on the same round if you would like to, or you can space them out however you please. Now, the third one, the electricity, is probably what I would consider to be the easiest, maybe. I mean, you may disagree. Maybe the first one is a little bit easier. The spawns are about the same on this. However, you have a little bit less room, and the Blightfathers show up a lot earlier, but you have the entire boat deck to work with on this, and a lot of electricity zombies will be spawning in, as well as Blightfathers. Now, the key and the trick to this one is to keep moving and stay out of the range or the reach of the electricity zombies that will flashbang you and blind you. This one's not too bad at all. Honestly, I think that this one is one of those things where you won't have any problems with. Make sure as soon as you pass this one to grab your max ammo and grab the Sentinel artifact as well. And then you can finally move on to the last ritual circle, which will be fire. And this one I would say is the toughest, maybe, but I think I ran this in the wrong way. I made it a lot harder myself than it really was. It's inside of the boiler room, and what I chose to do in this game was stay up on the top deck and defend both sides for myself. Now, you basically have access to the entire up and down of the boiler room, so if you want to train and hoard around, it's possible. It's a little bit tricky because it's so just cramped in here, but in this game I probably didn't do the best strategy, but it's still able to be done. I guess hindsight, I would have played this differently, but at the end of the day I ended up getting it done. So if I guess you follow exactly what I do in this gameplay, you should be fine as well. The only thing that's different about this challenge, aside from the other ones, is that you'll have Stokers during this challenge, but you will have no Blightfathers. It'd be a little unfair if they threw a Blightfather you in this very, cramped corner, so that's nice to see. see. And also, don't forget to shoot your Kraken really close to yourself as you cannot damage it, and don't be afraid to do that. It's probably going to be a thing that gets you through all these challenges and saves your life. After like 2 or 3 minutes, this challenge will pass. You've killed all the zombies that you need to, and then go downstairs in the boiler room where you should find the Sentinel artifact, more on fire than anything. It's not that ghostly white effect. Now from here, you are ready to pack-a-punch the Sentinel artifact, but before you do that, what you need to get is the Venom upgrade on your Kraken. You absolutely need that specific one. So if you don't know how to upgrade the Kraken to the elemental ones, then all you need to do is build the kit, which is pretty easy. It's just buildables, and then kill a Venom zombie to pick up its heart, or I guess it's a decay, and then you can bring that to the table to add that to your weapon. Okay, so here's where you need to pay attention a little bit. Once you go into the turbine room with your Venom upgraded Kraken, there are going to be blue pipes just in this room. Keep that in mind. They're all strictly inside of the turbine room, so you can count on that. But there's going to be these blue pipes that have leaks coming out of them, and your job is to shoot the Kraken at those leaks. Now, there are 9 total leaks that you need to basically create into water. You're, I guess, degrading the pipes to make, instead of steam, to actually let the water come back out. I guess is the logic behind this. Now, there are a couple of really sneaky spots during this step, so you really need to pay attention on the ceiling. They can be in sort of dark corners, and I'm trying to show as many possible spots in this video as I can, and I don't think that these change very much, but take your time on this and really look for all these ones on the blue pipes. If for some reason you are struggling on this step to find all the leaks and they're just not really popping out to your eye, something you can consider trying is turning on the zombie cartoon mode. Now, what this is going to do is make the room a little bit brighter and colors pop out a bit more, and it's just in general a little bit easier to see. So if you want to throw that on for the time being while you're doing this step, it's honestly not a bad move at all. But you'll know you've done this right when all the pipes are now leaking water and then the room floods up again like it was at the beginning of the game. And then if you're in the position to, if you can end the round there and flip it, the Pack-a-Punch machine should spawn in that original ritual location where you're setting up for the first time. And of course, once you have the Sentinel artifact on you, you can go ahead and Pack-a-Punch that bad boy. Make sure to retrieve it from the Pack-a-Punch machine, and then we can go ahead and move on to our next step, which is going to be gathering symbols. Now, if you would like to, I'd recommend maybe turn on subtitles for this, write things down. It makes it a little bit easier, but here is your first symbol you're going to want to grab just in front of the Odin statue. You hear a voice and her calling out a certain planet name. The second one is very tricky. You have to lay down on top of this catwalk to get it in the boiler room, so be mindful of that one. And the next one can be on the aft decks inside of this life ring, and again, every time you pick up a symbol, a planet name is going to be called out by this voice, so just kind of keep in mind or a mental note of which ones you're gathering. Now, the moon is in the lower grand staircase on the wall where I just picked it up right there. The next one is down below in the millionaire suites under this table. The next one you can possibly find is over in the bridge behind this cabinet in the right room. Pick that one up, and then you can head downstairs just below you into the staterooms, go all the way to the back where this palm tree is, and it should be behind those leaves. Gather that one, and then you can take yourself over back to spawn, which you'll find the sun, and you can pick that one up just as you spawn as well. And then finally go down into the mail rooms and pick up the final planet that you should have as soon as you've gathered all the ones before this, and it will be on this left wall just here. Now, once you've done that, you want to go back into the cargo hold and drain the water, and then once that's drained and you've gathered all your symbols, then the planetary solar system should spawn here. Now go ahead and get a good look at what this is going to look like, the names of the planets and stuff like that. What's going to happen is you'll hold square on the solar system, and a sequence of planets is going to flash by. Now you're going to want to write down, record, or at least take note of the order that you're given as soon as you hold square. And let's say you're not good with planet names, you don't want to do it that way, you can also do it off of color and planet size if you want to be kind of that skillful enough. Now what you're going to do is hold square, and then your sequences are going to flash like this. Now I significantly slowed down the gameplay in order to show you exactly what this is going to be like, but it's going to flash by pretty quickly, so I recommend that you take note with some kind of external thing like a recorder or your phone, or you just write them down, or you can pause, especially if you're in solo. That's the best thing you can do. But I'm getting my sequence of planets right here, and then it's always going to end off with the sun. That's 100%. So right here I have Neptune, and then finally it goes over to Mars, and then it's going to end off with the sun. Now at this point, the planets are already over in the sky, and what you need to do is shoot them down in that order and then gather them at the symbol corresponding to the planet that was mentioned. So I'll let you see me shooting down every single planet in my my game and shown you the fastest route to get to said planet. Just so you know, every single zombie will be infinite, and also they will be only going after the planet, so they'll be meeting you there. And I recommend that you have your Kraken out and ready, and just come through spraying if you need to, because the room, if you don't get there quickly, will most likely be crowded. Now, it is on a timer for each planet as soon as you spawn it in and shoot it, so you need to be quite careful. But I've never ran out of time. I don't know how much of a generous amount it is, but I will just tell you that you have a lot of time. You have ample time to get to each location picking up your planets. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that when you're shooting these down with whatever gun, just treat it like a hit scan. Like, I'm using a rocket right here, but I don't need to lead my shot whatever because it's a projectile. You don't need to do that for any of your weapons. Treat it like it's a hit scan just for any planet that you're shooting, and you won't have any problems. You'll get a hit marker letting you know that you did spawn it in, and again, every single time you shoot down that planet, it should spawn in the corresponding location of that symbol, which the voice said it was, or somewhere around that room. Now, not all of them are really easy to pick up. Some you have to maneuver a little bit to get. Some are going to be in small corners where the zombies are going to attract to a lot more easily, and you'll probably have a crowd to deal with. Like, for instance, this one here in the engine room, you need to jump to pick this one up. You cannot grab it from the ground. It's not too bad, but zombies will be gathering under it, so I recommend just clearing it out. Some of them are really hard to see, like this yellow one here. They'll be like in the clouds, so be on the lookout for like a blur or a color that's very faint in the clouds if you're struggling to find one of your planets. But honestly, they really aren't too hard to see, as long as maybe you hold a zombie for yourself, or if you're playing with a team, one of your teammates holds a zombie while you look and kind of sort this out. Now, keep in mind also that if you fail the sequence, if you shoot the wrong planet, or if you don't gather the planet in time, then you'll have to completely redo the solar system and reset it once again. So make sure you don't fail it. Try your best to get it done the first time. There's a really tricky spawn for the blue planet. This one orbits around the entire ship and can dip into the clouds and water, so make sure you're on the lookout for that one. It is a tricky find. It's normally outside of the perimeter. It's easy to see on the edges of the boat, but luckily the spawn is really close and it's just on this lifeboat just here. Make sure that you do not, I repeat, do not shoot the sun after all of the remaining planets have been shot down. The sun you will save for last when you are completely set up and ready to go into the final hard sequence before the boss fight itself. And during that time, I recommend you set up getting the Kraken if you don't already have it. Get the Hellion Salvo, which is a lifesaver in this boss fight. It's great. Make sure you get that. And also the Homunculus if you can. Sometimes the box just isn't in your favor and you cannot pick it up, which was the case in my game, but it's still possible to be done without it. But those things I absolutely recommend. Don't be afraid to go a few rounds to get everything you need as well. Completely set up with your perks, your shield, your level 3 hammer. Make sure that is completely filled up before you go into the next step as well, because you're going to need it. And just generally be prepared. And every single person's game is going to be different depending on your setup and how you like to play, but when you feel like you're ready to do the step called the ice run, that's what we're going to tackle next. Also, before you do this step, it's highly advised that you change your Kraken upgrade to the ice or water upgrade instead of the poison, because we're going to use that for this step and also the boss fight. But once you have all those things, now you can go ahead and shoot down the sun, and you're going to begin the ice run. And I'm going to say, guys, this is probably single-handedly the hardest step in the entire Easter egg. This seems to give people a lot of trouble, and what I'm going to do is show this entire ice run in its fullest and rawest form to show you exactly how I did, because a lot of people get confused or have questions about what they should do. Now, there are a couple of things that you should know as far as pointers and things that will help you and get it done a lot smoother. Apparently, I don't know if it's a glitch, but it definitely happened in my game. The second and third ice blocks can be broken by using your hammer, and it drops so quickly. You can blow through it in like 3 or 4 seconds flat, and that's great. If you could do this to all the ice blocks, then this step would honestly be no problem at all. You would blow through it very quickly, but I think it's glitched to where the second and third can be broken using your hammer, but like the fourth and then the final block cannot for some reason. It's like they don't register or they don't take damage, so you're gonna have to use some of your other equipment like your Kraken and your launcher. Some of the things that you should know about your Kraken is that the optimal way to do this is shoot one of the corners of the ice block to where you're damaging the ice block but also giving collateral damage to the zombies, as they will be infinite spawning on you. That's something that you also got to remember, is that it's not just you in the ice. You got to watch out for zombies on your back, and and the homunculus will come in great here if you were lucky enough to get him. In my game, I wasn't, so I kind of had to improvise, but you should get at least 2 specialist weapons if you don't drop an elixir during this run. And if you use the corner, use your shield properly, and kind of angle yourself to break these ice blocks as quickly as possible, you shouldn't have any problems. And also, reloading is a very tactical maneuver in this, because without speed cola, it takes a little bit of time, and the Kraken and launcher do take a significant few seconds to do that. And in the ice run, that ends up being a lot. It feels like an hour for the reload. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you are playing with a team, the Scepter of Ra is actually great for this, because you can have some people hoarding off the zombies and keep them away from the ice, and while somebody with the special weapon just completely beams the ice, and it probably deletes it faster than the hammer, to be honest. But since it's only you need that self-protection, the hammer is the way to go for this one. And as you can see, I'm breaking almost my final ice block, going up to the deck where near the Sentinel artifact was, and you can see what happened to me when the glitch came in. I'm very close to my hammer. I'm low on Kraken ammo, so I gotta make a decision. So I decided to use the rest of this Kraken on the iceberg, and then by that point I should have my hammer back, so I pulled out here, and you can see I'm laying into this ice. I'm absolutely just going in, and it seems to be doing no damage for some reason. I didn't really understand why. I thought maybe this was the toughest ice block, so it was going to be a lot harder to break. Little did I know I was doing absolutely nothing during this stage. So you got to be quick about it, and you can know if you're running out of time. If your screen starts to freeze, that's how you'll know the timer's about to end. But I finished off here with my rocket, and I get the step done, and then the white flash, and I'm good. Stay woke, boys and girls. Don't let this glitch happen to you. If you get the white flash, you're good to go, and then the boss fight ritual will... If you've made it this far in the Easter egg, then congratulations. You have done all the challenges, and you are ready for the boss fight. And that being said, this will be your final chance to get anything you need for that boss fight. So I recommend you definitely get a refresh shield. Make sure you have all your perks as well as a level 3 specialist. Have your elixirs maybe cooled down, and just anything you need that you feel like is going to help you inside of this boss fight. Now, once you hit that teleporter, it's not going to throw you directly into the boss fight itself, because there will be 5 different stages that we need to handle that are similar to the challenges that we did earlier in this Easter egg with the outlets. Now, what you're going to do is spawn inside of the iceberg as soon as you've activated the ritual teleporter. Swim to the back where the tree is, and then you'll see a Sentinel artifact kind of holder, and then you'll put it in there to accept it. And what's going to happen is you'll get this really cinematic view of what's happening, and you'll be thrown out of the iceberg and then back onto the boat, where you'll see the iceberg quite literally flies up into the air and then will drop back down into the water. I'm not really sure exactly what the storyline explanation is for this, but nonetheless, it's a really cool cinematic sight to see. But don't let it distract you for too long, because as soon as this drops, you're going to get another one of those white flashes on your screen that you've been getting after your challenges and when you do something big in the game, and then you'll be thrown into the first challenge of the boss fight. So I'm going to walk you through and show you a little bit of each challenge and each phase to make sure that you know what you're doing. Now, the first phase of this is identical as far as the map layout to the first challenge we did earlier. You have the same square footage and area to work with. However, there's only a couple differences. The eyeball, which is the main boss, is here, but you don't need to focus on him for this phase at all. Like, completely disregard that he's there. He won't hurt you in any way. You can't do anything to him either. So just strictly focus on the enemy zombies and the other creatures that are spawning in. You will have Blight Fathers and you will have Stokers. It's kind of like a more intense version of the first one that we did. Now, once you've done that, you will get a white flash on the screen. You'll be there for like a second or two, and then it's going to throw you in straight away to the second challenge. And this one is a little bit easier. I would probably say that this is the easiest overall. And all you really got to understand for this one is that it's the same concept as the last challenge. Just eliminate the enemies probably as quickly and efficiently as you can. You're going to have the same spawn rates as far as Blight Fathers and Stokers and stuff, so just be on the lookout for that. But also, you'll notice that there is a new effect that the boss can employ. That's kind of the theme going forward, that every phase the boss gets one new tactic that he can use. And in this one, it's these ice tornadoes, but it doesn't necessarily do direct damage to your player, so you don't need to worry about running through them. Initially, we thought that you did, but what these tornadoes do is make these zombies stronger. It kind of like freezes them and makes them deal 75 damage or 75 HP per hit, so they are a lot beefier than they otherwise would be, and they do take a lot more damage to kill as well. So it's the same concept though, just get it done, kill as many as you can. The Kraken is probably going to be your best friend as well as your hammer if you need it, and now you'll teleport to the third sequence inside of these staterooms. Alright, so here's where you really need to pay attention, because this is the hardest sequence, whether you're with a team or even just playing solo. What's going to happen is the boss will start spraying an ice beam down 2 of these corridors. He'll alternate between each one, and what you need to do is shoot the boss with your rocket launcher or whatever gun you have while he's vulnerable, firing that beam. Now you can peek around the corner to fire your weapon and without taking, you know, much damage, and that's probably the best way to do it, but it's kind of unavoidable to step into the beam anyways. But if you're in that beam for too long, you will be frozen. The way to break out of that animation is just by spamming your knife button and, you know, kind of breaking free that way. But this one is tough because of how close quarters it is, and you will still have stokers, so this one is not a joke, and definitely make sure that you're on it during the sequence. A really good strategy is that you can kind of train up as best as you can on one side of the room, and when he goes to the other side to spray his beam, completely just run over, shoot a ice kraken behind you, and then fire your rockets into the eye as many as you can. If you get 4 off, great. If not, then just take a lap and then do it again. Repetition is definitely the key to doing this one. You'll just understand it more as you play it more, so if you end up failing, don't feel too bad about it. Jump back in and try this one again. This one I struggled on a little bit. I did take it down, but it really wasn't that bad as soon as I kind of got the hang of it. But once you beat that, you'll be transported into the 4th sequence, which is definitely a break from the previous one as far as difficulty. I would compare it to probably being as difficult as the 2nd challenge, but essentially what's going to happen is you'll be teleported to the promenade starboard deck on the side of the boat here. You have a lot of room to work with, and basically if you just want to train up one side until the boss jumps into his attack, that's great. You can kind of take a dash to the opposite side to buy yourself time, maybe shoot a kraken behind you to buy yourself even more time, and then just fire your rockets or whatever gun you're using straight into the boss. Remember, for all these challenges, be using your homunculus equipment if you got it. In my game I wasn't able to, so I didn't have that luxury, but they will significantly help in all of these challenges. But once you beat that one, you're now into the final sequence, and this is where you really got to pay attention. You'll be back in the first area where you started the challenge, but with a change. The boss can now use all of his attacks that he used in the previous phases, and he also has a wipe mechanic that will completely down you and your entire team if you do not stop the charge up. Now, I'll explain that as we go, but he's going to go off to the side here and then shoot his ice beam at you. Your job right here is obviously to put as much DPS into him as possible, and when he is going to start his wipe mechanic, you'll hear a really loud scream, and he starts to charge up here at the middle. The way to stop this is, if you're using the Hellion salvo, is to put a swift 4 rockets straight through the middle, and you've really got to be quick about it, because otherwise you will die if you don't get it as soon as possible. Now, this was me in the game being absolutely on it. You do have, I'd say, around 10 seconds to maybe stop it, so don't worry about it too much, but make sure that you are paying attention when that does happen. On his final charge up where he's about to do his wipe mechanic and he's almost dead, this is going to get very intense in the game. You'll have plenty of zombies and it's going to be very, very hectic. But I promise that if you put enough shots into him, you buy yourself some time, throw a homunculus, get it done, you will take out the boss, you will get a white screen, and congratulations, you have just completed the Voyage of Despair Easter egg on solo. You're going to be awarded the map trophy, and you're also going to get a Dark Ops challenge if you do it completely flawless on solo as well. But there you go, guys. The cutscene is then going to play, and you've officially beaten this map once and for all. If you guys did enjoy the guide, I would really appreciate some feedback and a like rating in the comment section and stuff like that. And if you did make it to the end of the video, let me know if you've made it this far by just leaving Mad Lads in the comments. Like, I'll know if you're part of that very special club. Like, you're an absolute legend if you watched all the way till the end, because this was over 30 minutes and it just was a very, very complicated video with a lot of stuff to take in. So thank you so much for watching, truly, if you did make it to the end, and I really hope that this guide does help you in any capacity to complete the map. But anyways, guys, that's the video for today. Thank you for watching once again. Go and join my Discord server if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter as well. I'd appreciate that too. And without further ado, I'll see you guys on the next live stream or the next video. Have a good one, everybody, and peace out.